Falcon of the Millennium Empire is Berserk's fourth major arc, which cautiously becomes the turning point where things truly dive into the dark fantasy genre, dare I say for better and for worse. But what I can say for certainty is that this arc branches off between Guts and Griffith's journey to intersect in fascinating paths. So let's start off with our favorite struggler and the many struggles he faces once more. The journey to Elfhelm. In retrospect, who would imagine that Guts reuniting with Casca at the Tower of Conviction was the easy main quest compared to the tribulation he faces to get to Puck's homeland, Elfhelm. In previous arcs, we've seen Guts dismantle demons to protect his own behind, but with Casca now joining him, not only does prioritizing his safety along with hers become an increasingly difficult task, the added bonus of two branded individuals mean an array of more looming threats surface more frequently. What's even more difficult and heartbreaking is Guts coming to the realization that the Casca in front of him is just a mere husk of who she once was and a reminder of the trauma Griffith caused as a result. This frustration and malice, as previously teased in the Lost Children arc, has now fully manifested as the Beast of Darkness, comprised of Guts' most negative emotions. This malice seeping onto Guts' psyche reminded me how Lady Farnese back in the Conviction arc subconsciously was living out her deepest, darkest sexual desires while being possessed. Was Guts' pent-up frustration at the Casca in front of him enough to lose control? Unfortunately, yes. The Beast was right, and after forcing himself on her, in mere seconds, all of the trust he built with her vanishes. In truth, Guts can't trust himself anymore, and we the audience are also left in this ambiguity as well. The absolute worst part is that he's accepting that their previous relationship is over for good. Thankfully, this bleak moment is salvaged by his new companions. While Isidro gets outshined by everyone else in this arc, his miniature sparring practices with Guts and the lessons he learns from them are invaluable to his character development. He's young and naive, and as such, falls and stumbles on his resolve on numerous occasions. This is especially the case when he compares his own self-worth to that of Schierke, someone similar in age, acting and contributing more substantially to the overall party, shattering his ego and feeding into his insecurities as a result. Yet, through Guts' reassurance, his self-doubt vanishes, becoming fully capable of completing the task in the moments where it counts the most. Serpico. Despite being introduced as the lapdog to Farnese back in the Conviction arc, Serpico was that character I seemingly wanted to root for. Now, this is especially the case when his character is further fleshed out in his tragic backstory, and his overprotectiveness of Farnese stemmed from discovering that she is in fact his half-sister. While initially being disinterested in joining Guts' party, even threatening him if any harm came to Farnese, he's humble enough to acknowledge that Guts' influence indirectly led her towards becoming a better and capable person in ways he didn't know how to bring out in Farnese, therefore acting thankful for Guts, putting his differences aside because of it. Serpico is a quick learner too, adapting to the principles and rules of magic when he gets his new magical weapon. This, in addition to his tactical and sword prowess, analyzing opponents on the battlefield is a huge help to the party. Much like Guts, he's willing to prioritize his safety for a loved one, and subsequently any battle he's involved in could be his last. This admirable trait is charming and adds in both tension and excitement to me as a reader. Lady Farnese has by far the most compelling character growth in this arc that I absolutely enjoyed watching unfold. Her initial introduction as a hedonistic religious brat, not taking any sort of accountability in her life, was fleshed out enough to typecast and be over with. Yet, following the events of the Conviction arc, her perspective on life has been thrown into disarray because of Guts, and is determined to seek out further lessons she can acquire from him. Although Guts doesn't actually teach her anything, through joining the party, she quickly learns how much of a burden she really is. She's clumsy and initially incapable of protecting herself and Casca. However, through this realization, she notices the errors of her ways and embraces a path of self-discovery. Her refusal to quit, given her privileged past, is shockingly commendable. As a result, she physically and mentally toughens up as her redemption ironically comes full circle through protecting Casca, someone much weaker than herself. Schierke is the witch lolly and newest character addition in the story who introduces magic to the group and us the readers in a major way, which I'll touch on in a bit, but her character as a whole is knowledgeable and introverted. Unlike Isidro, she's very mature for her age and forthcoming, especially when it comes to shielding the party from any and all astral threats. Yet, while being versatile and efficient with the tools at her disposal, she often lacks the self-confidence and belief in herself to pull them off. Similarly to Isidro, she needs Guts' reassurance at times to achieve the task only she can do, and when she does successfully pull them off, it makes for some trippy and literal out of this world elements come to life. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room, and by that I mean magic. I've actually spoken to my editor and will fully dive into this topic in a separate video entirely, but initially this is the first time I've noticed in Berserk where a big tonal shift is incoming. Berserk at its core has always been a dark fantasy, but now it seems like Kentaro Miura fully wants to embrace it a step further. The magical elements and properties themselves aren't my issue, it's more so with Flora's massive exposition dump explaining the universe of Berserk. I'm not even going to try and act like I fully grasp everything within the astral world, the interstices, and the alike, but basically knowing how layered and complex the multiverse of Berserk is kinda dampened my read-through with the looming threat of the trolls. Their insignificance in the grand scheme of things, especially compared to what Griffith is trying to accomplish, is one thing, but now it's abundantly clear to me that Guts isn't facing demons in literal hell any longer. There's an actual multi-universal threat, which in retrospect makes the journey of Guts as a whole really small, leaving me a bit conflicted. I enjoy Berserk because of the personal, intimate moments with Guts interacting with Casca and his companions. In chapter 83 of Berserk, when Griffith was speaking with the Black Heart, things were intentionally left very ambiguous and existential, in which I thought Kentaro Miura just wanted to spark some philosophy as a one and done thing for the transformation of Griffith becoming femto. But now furthering reintroducing that plot thread, while exciting for some, has me personally torn. Expanding the world building for any series can greatly please the hardcore fan base, but personally the simpler story of Berserk is what got me to fall in love with the series in the first place. Which leads me into my next issue, the Berserker Armor. While aesthetically pleasing and outright metal as fuck for Guts, Guts donning the new armor loses his sense of fear and pain, and as a result, it heightens his strength and power. It's not a power increase, but to my understanding, his pure sheer will, determination, and strength fully brought forth. However, the ramification of using the armor is very severe, and during his battle with Grumbeld, we see how this armor is literally ripping him to shreds and keeping his bones intact by biting onto his actual bones themselves to sustain Guts from continually fighting. That being said, this is where I am also conflicted. That armor brings out Guts' heightened raw strength with a severe drawback, but this also means that Guts is now relying on magic to get the job done. Sure, Guts has indirectly used magic in the past, but Pux's pixie dust healing him and the Dragon Slayer, even if it manifested the Beast of Darkness, it's not like those concepts made him slay his enemies more efficiently. Prior to this point, what scared the demons and apostles was Guts' sheer tenacity and will to eliminate any threat his way. This is slightly out of context, and I'm going to paraphrase what a fellow Berserker YouTuber, TheAlmightyLoli, said in his Falcon of the Millennium video arc about the armor. Guts now has an Iron Man suit that turns him into the Incredible Hulk when he's angry. Take that for what it is. It's not bad, I think I just need some time to adjust is all. Griffith. Criticisms out of the way, let's quickly discuss Griffith's master plan to seemingly link the astral world with the real world. I know he's a member of the God Hand, but he made it pretty clear that he just wanted a kingdom and that's it. But maybe it's the ultimate kingdom in the entire multiverse? I suppose it makes sense. He did acquire and assemble the Dark Avengers after all, and by that I mean Zod, Grunbeld, Locust, and the Skull Kid from Majora's Mask. Anyway, his story arc is interesting because while he's assembling the Band of the Hawk 2.0, he's amassing it with a mix of demon soldiers as well. The townsfolk who adore him will disregard that last sentiment because they witnessed their messiah Griffith send their loved ones to heaven. Spoilers, it's not heaven, it's the freaking vortex hellhole. It's so dark and messed up, but that's why I love to hate his character. How diabolical can this man really be? Speaking of diabolical, I gotta say the emperor of the Kushan army, Ganishka, is a freaking apostle rebelling against Griffith and the God Hand. This makes for some fun reading because the demon hierarchy in Berserk seemed established. No matter how strong an apostle is, whether you are Zod, Grumbeld, or whoever, you bow down to the God Hand, period. Ganishka sticking his middle finger to claim his top spot as the Alpha Demon Lord and proudly declaring it is intriguing. Interestingly enough, the Emperor is still playing the political chess game of marrying Charlotte to establish the Kushan Empire as the main powerhouse in Midland, which, does he even really need to do so? Admittedly, while we all know how this will pan out for the Emperor, witnessing civil strife amongst the demons in this universe was something that caught me by surprise. You know who also caught me by surprise was Charlotte being swooned away in her bed in the beautiful night sky by none other than her white knight in shining armor and Zod. I don't know if this was intentionally done or not by Kentaro Miura, but he really painted this scene for me as a Disney magical moment for Charlotte.
I can show you.
So guys, when should we tell Charlotte she ain't flying off to a beautiful sunset like Aladdin, but another magical place, if you catch my drift? Yet, with Griffith now having the child of Casca and Guts inside of him, I can't help but wonder what role that will play in Griffith's potential downfall, if at all. the boy in the moonlight. After the craziness Guts and the gang faced with the trolls and the passing of Flora, 1 month has passed by with the Skull King telling Guts and Schierke that the King of Elves can restore Casca's mind only if they go through a trial, because everything has to be difficult for Guts and Berserk sadly, but more importantly, only if Casca wants that to be her wish as well. Now, I'm not sure how Casca wanting that can be an issue since her mind is basically in the Shadow Realm, but this definitely creates heavy tension for Guts, understandably so. At the same moment, Casca stumbles upon the Moon Child. They really focus on this child's eyes looking eerily similar to that of Casca's, additionally sharing the same facial structures to that of Guts. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but perhaps this is their child if it was born in the physical world since their fetus child was born and living in the astral world? I don't think this is a coincidence, but let's see where this development will go. The first half of the Falcon Millennium Arc has set the wheels in motion, pushing the dark fantasy aspects of Berserk in ways I never would have expected. Before we get there, let's talk about a simpler time in Berserk and discuss what made the beginning of this story so captivating for first-time readers.